Imagine a metropolis not forged from steel and glass, but from living earthworks and vibrant coral beads. A city adorned with brass bas-reliefs whispering forgotten tales, where life-size bronze heads gaze enigmatically from palace walls. Imagine a kingdom so magnificent its streets were paved with coral, its walls stretched for miles, and its art dazzled the eyes of European royalty. A place where sophisticated social structures hummed with trade, elaborate rituals pulsed with ancient beliefs, and the clang of the metalworker's hammer echoed a symphony of a civilization reaching its zenith. This, dear viewers, is the legacy of the great Benin Empire, a beacon of African brilliance that shone for centuries in the heart of what is now Nigeria. To understand Benin is to delve into the soul of a people who worshipped beauty and venerated skill. Their artistry, a language whispered in metal and bone, transcended mere aesthetics. Bronze, molten and tamed by the furnace, flowed into exquisite sculptures, each curve and furrow a testament to the divine right of the Oba, the king god who embodied the very essence of the kingdom. Ivory, plucked from the heart of the forest, took shape under nimble fingers, morphing into masks that danced with the spirits and combs that crowned the heads of royalty. Every object, from the exquisitely detailed ceremonial swords to the humble clay pot, pulsed with a sacred hum, a silent ode to the ancestors and the divine spark that animated their world. Welcome to this historic video segment. Today we are taking a dive at the civilization, art, and culture of the Great Benin Empire. Before we continue, don't forget to support our works by hitting that like button over there before you. Share information with your families and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening Black narrative, and kindly subscribe to help in building the rising membership of this channel. Your support means a whole lot to us. The Benin or Edo Empire, from 1440 to 1897, also known as the Kingdom of Benin, was a large pre-colonial African state of modern Nigeria. The Benin Empire was one of the oldest and most highly developed states in the coastal part of West Africa, until it was annexed by the British Empire in 1897. According to the traditional account, the original name of the Kingdom of Benin, at its creation sometime in the first millennium CE, was Igodomigodo, as its inhabitants called it. Their rulers were called Ogiso, that is, King of the Sky. Nearly 36 known Ogisos are accounted for as rulers of this initial incarnation of the state. The Ogiso began to use the Ada and Eben scepters as symbols of their authority from around 16 AD. However, on the death of the last Ogiso, his son and heir apparent Ekaladerhan was banished from Benin as a result of one of the queens changing the message from the oracle to the Ogiso. Ekaladerhan was a powerful warrior and well-loved prince. On leaving Benin, he traveled to the west of the present-day Nigeria to the land of the Yorubas. At that time, the Yoruba oracle said that their king will come out of the forest, and when Ekaladerhan arrived at Ife, he was received as a king. He changed his name to Imadodua, meaning, "I did not misplace my royalty," and became the Great Oduduwa of the Yoruba land. On the death of his father, the last Ogiso, a group of Benin chiefs came to Ife, pleading with him to come back to Benin to ascend the throne. Oduduwa's reply was that a king cannot leave his kingdom, but he had 7 sons, and would ask one of them to go back to Benin to rule as the next king. Oranmiyan, the son of Ekaladerhan aka Oduduwa, agreed to go to Benin. He spent some years in Benin and came back to Ife after his wife gave birth to a son named Eweka. Eweka I became the first Oba of Benin. In 1440, Oba Eware, aka Eware the Great, came to power and turned the city-state into an empire. Around 1470, he named the new state Edo. The Oba had become the paramount power within the region. Oba Eware, who reigned from 1440 to 1473. The first Golden Age Oba is credited with turning Benin City into a city-state from a military fortress built by the Ogisos, protected by moats and walls. It was from this bastion that he launched his military campaigns and began the expansion of the kingdom from the Edo-speaking heartlands. The lands of Ida, Owo, Akure all came under the central authority of the Edo Empire. The Oba, the embodiment of divine authority, presided over a complex social structure. Guilds of artisans, each specializing in a specific craft, formed the backbone of the economy. A sophisticated judicial system ensured order and justice, while religious beliefs, infused with the veneration of ancestors and deities, provided a moral compass for society. A series of walls marked the incremental growth of the city from 850 AD until its decline in the 16th century. To enclose his palace, Oba Eware commanded the building of Benin's inner wall, an 11-kilometer-long earthen rampart girded by a moat 6 meters, that is, 20 feet, deep. This was excavated in the early 1960s by Graham Khanna. Khanna estimated that its construction, if spread out over 5 dry seasons, would have required a workforce of 1,000 laborers working 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Eware also added great thoroughfares and erected 9 fortified gateways. Excavations at Benin City have revealed that it was already flourishing around 1200 to 1300 CE. Oba Eware, aka Eware the Great, upon ascending the throne in the remarkable year of 1440, had caused significant changes and development in the kingdom of Benin. Eware had become king in a violent coup against his brother Uwaifiokun, which destroyed much of Benin City. After the war, Eware rebuilt much of the city of Benin, reformed political structures in the kingdom, greatly expanded the territory of the kingdom, and fostered the arts and festivals. He left a significant legacy and is often considered the first king of the kingdom of Benin. Prior to Eware, the Oba of Benin was limited in their power and authority by the Uzama, a group of hereditary chieftains throughout the kingdom. The Uzama were able to appoint the Oba of Benin upon the death of an Oba and could limit any efforts by the Oba. The rise of Eware to a position of power is chronicled by Benin's oral history. Eware was born as the third son of the Oba, Ohen. At this point, Eware was known by the name Prince Ogun. Ohen was deposed and stoned to death after both of his legs were paralyzed, since it meant he lost the divine powers. A controversy arose upon the death of Ohen, when both Prince Ogun and his brother, Prince Irugi, were exiled by Oba Orobiru, Ohen's second son. Ohen's first son, Oba Egbeka, had ruled upon their father's death, but did not last long. In exile, Ogun then traveled widely throughout the region, visiting many different kingdoms. Local historian Jacob U. Egharivba contended that after the death of Orobiru, both Ogun and Uwaifikon were banished from the city. But then Uwaifikon was able to return, lied to the Uzama, and was named king. One popular oral history contends that while Prince Ogun was exiled, he performed a favor for a jungle spirit and, as a result, got a magic bag called Agbav Boko. Agbav Boko had the magical qualities that no matter what Ogun put into the bag, it had more space, and whenever he reached in, he could pull out whatever he desired. During his travels, he gathered significant magical and herbal knowledge from a variety of sources. At one point, he felt the need to sleep under the sacred Uloko tree, and the tree told him to return to Benin City and reclaim the throne. On his way back to the city, he removed an infected thorn from a lion's paw, and the lion gave him a magic talisman, which he could use to create any situation in the world he desired. He arrived in Benin City, surprised to find a parade for his brother Uwaifikon, while the people were in destitute circumstances. Prince Ogun used the talisman to set large parts of the city on fire. He then reached into Agbav Boko and pulled out a bow with a poison arrow, which he then used to assassinate Uwaifikon. In the confusion that ensued, he hid with a slave named Edo that had taken care of him when he was young and who had immediately recognized him in the chaos. Supporters of Uwaifikon entered Edo's house and killed him while in search of Ogun, who was in hiding. Ogun then exited the house and gathered his supporters and was able to assert his right to the throne. In Egarevba's version, in a visit to the city during his exile, Ogun was taken in by a prominent chief who hid him in a dried well, but then went to tell the authorities. But the head slave of the chief by name, Edo, let down a ladder into the well and advised Ogun to escape. Afterwards, Ogun then took on the name Eware, translated to "the trouble has ceased." Eventually, the honorific Ogidigan, that is, the Great, was appended, and he became often known as Eware Ogidigan, or Eware the Great. The date for his rise to the throne is usually dated to 1440. To honor the slave that had sacrificed his life to save his, Eware also renamed the city to Edo, now Benin City. Eware is often considered a key state reformer and crucial in many aspects of state formation in the Benin Empire. He consolidated the power of the Oba, changed lineage procedures, and created an administrative structure for the empire. In addition, he greatly expanded the empire and took over a significant territory. A major administrative development undertaken by Eware was reducing the power of the Uzama chiefs, which were a limiting force on the Oba. Eware removed their ability to appoint the Oba, and instead adopted a clear succession, going to the firstborn son. In adopting this primogeniture lineage system, the authority of the Uzama was greatly decreased. In addition, to clarify the situation, Eware developed the Idekan title for the oldest son to clearly establish the lineage. One oral history dates this development to a situation in the city of Usalu. The chief of Usalu, Iken, had become an ally to Eware. At one point, another city was revolting against Eware's rule, and Iken mobilized an army to end the revolt. However, because he did not have anyone to rule Usalu, Eware sent his oldest son Quoboyua to serve in the town until the war was over. Iken died in the fighting, and since he had no heir, Quoboyua became the ruler. This incident created a clear succession to the oldest son of the king, with the title Edaiken derived from the incident. Eware also created 2 additional layers of administration in towns and villages, with the creation of the Egabonore, that is, town chiefs, and Egabonogbe, that is, palace chiefs. These acted as administrative arms, directly appointed and accountable to the Oba, who would collect tribute, deal with legal issues, and generally take part in the affairs of state. To foster this, Eware encouraged the freeborn population to work in the palace for small wages as part of these different orders. In addition, Eware was successful at taking over a number of cities and towns in the region to expand the empire. He personally led the army against many of the Edo communities, living west of the Niger River, and key Yoruba settlements like Akure and Owo. In towns that he took over, he quickly replaced the ruling elite with chiefs of his administrative system, who were his allies. Oral history recounts 201 victories by Eware over the various cities and towns, creating a large empire centered in Edo. The capital city of the empire was rebuilt during Eware with significant redesign. Around Benin City, then Edo, Eware built significant walls and moats, large boulevards within the city, and clearly divided zones for different craftwork. Archaeological evidence has found that the walls built around the palace and the city, and even out into the country, were significant constructions taking multiple years to complete. In addition, he rebuilt the palace and created a clear division between it and the rest of the capital city. The division was further emphasized through the introduction of scarification for freeborn citizens to differentiate them from the slave population. The historian Egarevba establishes a different source of the scarification that developed in the kingdom. Oral histories used by Egarevba suggests that during the reign of Eware the Great, his oldest son Quoboyua, the ruler of Iken, and his second son Ezuarha, who had become the ruler of Iowa, became rivals and ended up poisoning each other, causing Eware to go into significant mourning. In his sorrow, Eware passed a law prohibiting sex in the kingdom for 3 years, which resulted in many members of the kingdom migrating to other areas. Eware overturned the law, but because few migrants returned, he told all neighboring states to refuse to give entry to his citizens and developed the scarification practice to allow clear identification of their citizens. The kingdom reached its greatest power and size under Oba Eware the Great. He expanded the kingdom and improved the capital, present-day Benin City. The city was defined by massive walls. The height of power for Benin's monarchs began during this period. Excavations also uncovered a rural network of earthen walls 6,000 to 13,000 kilometers long that would have taken an estimated 150 million man-hours to build and must have taken hundreds of years to build. These were apparently raised to mark out territories for towns and cities. 13 years after Eware's death, tales of Benin's splendors lured more Portuguese traders to the city gates. At its maximum extent, the empire is claimed by the Edos to have extended from Onitsha in the east, through the forested southwestern region of Nigeria, and into the present-day nation of Ghana. The Ga peoples of Ghana trace their ancestry to the ancient kingdom of Benin. Eware greatly expanded the arts in Benin during his reign, and was aided greatly in this through increased trade. Eware is generally credited with expanding ivory and wood carving in the empire and the creation of bronze heads for shrines to deceased Obas. In addition, Eware began many of the royal decoration traditions involving coral. In both folktales and artistic representations, Eware is considered someone with significant magical powers. His herbal and magical knowledge is attested to in a number of significant artwork from the era. Crucial in this is the creation during Eware of the Igwe festival, which was originally celebrated as a festival to renew his magical powers. One oral history says that the date of the Igwe festival was set initially to the marriage between Eware and a wife named Eware. He is also said to have founded the Ugie Erha Oba festival, which honored the Obas. Artists of the Benin Kingdom were well known for working in many materials, particularly brass, wood, and ivory. They were famous for their bas-relief sculptures, particularly plaques and life-size bronze heads of the Obas of Benin. The plaques typically portrayed historical events, and the heads were often naturalistic and life-size. The kings of Benin commissioned sculptures that stand among the most celebrated art traditions in history. The court of the Benin Kingdom supported 2 guilds of artists who created masterpieces in bronze and ivory. By the 15th century, the kingdom had grown to encompass an area the size of New England, with more than 2 million subjects. In this period of expansive local and international trade, the Oba, or king, commissioned a dazzling array of sculpture to celebrate his growing success and to commemorate earlier kings. Benin art has fascinated the king's subjects, ambassadors to the court, and art collectors ever since. The most common artifact is based on Queen Idia, popularly called the Festac mask. Most artwork was commissioned by or created for the palace, often for ceremonial use. Much art depicted the Oba in various costumes. The Guild of Artisans enjoyed royal patronage and occupied a designated district of the capital. When Europeans first saw this art, they assumed a non-African origin, because they did not think Africans capable of such sophisticated work. The Portuguese, the ancient Egyptians, even the lost tribe of Israel were credited instead of the Edo. Benin bronzes were not merely for the eyes, they were instruments of power, used to legitimize the Oba's reign and connect the living to the ancestral realm. The lost wax casting technique, a closely guarded secret, transformed molten metal into exquisite narratives, whispering secrets of a civilization that valued both artistic mastery and spiritual potency. Artisans also carved many different ivory objects, including masks and, for their European trade partners, salt cellars. But bronze was not the only canvas upon which Benin's artists poured their souls. Ivory, gleaming white and precious as moonlight, was carved into exquisite masks, ceremonial objects, and figures of deities. Each curve, each delicate line, bespoke a profound understanding of the natural world and the unseen forces that pulsed within it. The art of Benin was not merely an aesthetic pursuit. It was the beating heart of a vibrant culture. Oral traditions, passed down through generations, recounted the epic deeds of heroes, the wisdom of ancestors, and the origins of the universe. Skilled weavers, their fingers nimble and swift, transformed cotton into vibrant clothes, adorned with geometric patterns and symbolic motifs. These fabrics, imbued with cultural significance, were not just garments. They were stories woven into threads, worn on the skin, and passed down as heirlooms. Benin art was indeed not mere decoration. It was a language, a chronicle of history whispered in bronze and ivory. Each intricate swirl on a ceremonial mask, each lifelike detail on a warrior's portrait, spoke of conquests and rituals, of ancestors and gods, of a civilization that dared to dream in molten metal and carve its aspirations into the heart of Africa. The success of Benin was fueled by its lively trade. Tradesmen and artisans from Benin developed relationships with the Portuguese, who sought after the kingdom's artwork, gold, ivory, and pepper. In the early modern era, Benin was also heavily involved in the West African slave trade. They would capture men, women, and children from rival peoples and sell them into slavery to European and American buyers. This trade provided a significant source of wealth for the kingdom. However, the Kingdom of Benin began to lose power during the 1880s, as royal family members fought for power and control of the throne. Civil wars broke out, dealing a significant blow to both Benin's administration as well as its economy. In its weakened state, Benin struggled to resist foreign interference in its trading network, particularly by the British. A desire for control over West African trade and territory ultimately led to a British invasion of Benin in 1897. Benin City was burned by the British, who then made the kingdom part of British Nigeria, which became Nigeria after the country gained independence in 1960. After that time, the kingdom no longer played a governing role in West Africa. However, even today, the Oba still serves in Benin City as a government advisor. The Great Benin Empire, like all empires, did not stand the test of time forever. The arrival of Europeans, with their insatiable hunger for slaves and riches, brought about a tragic decline. In 1897, the British sacked the royal palace, looting countless treasures and forever altering the course of Benin's history. Yet the legacy of the Great Benin Empire endures. Its art, scattered across museums worldwide, continues to cap in. In 2012, Robert Owen Lehman gave his collection of art from the Benin Kingdom to the MFA. The 34 pieces now on display in Gallery 172 include a number of rare masterpieces from this famous tradition, including one of the earliest surviving altarpieces depicting a Portuguese soldier and a particularly excellent sculpture of a warrior on horseback. 15 bronze plaques from a 16th century installation in the King's Audience Courtyard are also on view in the gallery and highlight the wealth of this historic empire. In closing, the Great Benin Empire may be no more, but its civilization, art, and culture continue to resonate. Despite the shadows, the brilliance of Benin endures. Its art, a testament to human creativity, continues to captivate museums and inspire artists across the globe. Its culture, a vibrant tapestry of tradition and innovation, echoes in the hearts of the Edo people, reminding them of their rich heritage. The Great Benin Empire may be a chapter closed in history, but its legacy lives on, a testament to the enduring power of human spirit, artistic genius, and the unquenchable thirst for beauty that resides within us all. That brings us to the end of this enthralling video segment. Did you learn a thing or two on this one? Just go ahead and share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to support our efforts by hitting that like button, share with your families and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening Black narrative, and kindly subscribe to help in building the rising membership of this channel. Your every inch of support counts a great deal. Thank you for watching.